want to take you back to a visit I had in Chicago. I wrote about this in the book. It's on page 65. If you have a copy of the book today, I Begin a New Life. If you have the Og Vault, it's in the Og Vault as a supplemental piece of material. I just want to take you a little deeper into this process because it's so important to understand these principles in terms of breaking through your comfort zone. Now, here I am, sitting in a hotel, getting ready to go to bed, and I still am not completely clear on what I'm going to say tomorrow. We had done hundreds of assessments, I knew a lot about how they were thinking. I knew we had some challenges in self-esteem. So I'm pondering this. I'm frankly praying about this. And Ramona and I went to bed, and I'm holding her hand, and I just fell asleep. And somewhere in the night, I had a very vivid dream. It was a tremendous lesson for me in understanding how to break out of my own comfort zone. You won't find that as the impetus for the dream, but really I'm struggling with some things in my own life at that point that I still haven't been able to totally break through. Well, in the dream, I am walking on a path. I'm dragging a white muslin sack behind me, and it's so big it's dragging on the ground behind me. It weighs 200 or 300 pounds. It's exhausting. There's a man coming toward me, and I want to connect with him, and I knew all the techniques. Intrinsic validation, you notice what's good, you listen, etc. But I was exhausted. You ever feel that? You ever just feel so exhausted by life, by all those things that just make us want to curl up in a fetal position and just hide from the world? That's the space I was in. And this really tender voice, and I think we know this voice when we hear it, just said, "David, let go of the sack." It's like I needed permission. And I remember just feeling so different. Very shortly thereafter, David, turn and face the sack. There is a reason why we drag those things behind us. They're painful. We don't want to see them. Turn and face the sack. It means I had to face my challenges. And for us to break out of our comfort zone, it's going to be important that you take out a paper and a pen and you start writing down some of those things that are in your sack. I was told to empty it, and when I emptied it, it was just a bunch of silver orbs about that big with spikes on them. They looked kind of ominous. And I was asked to pick up the most painful. I'm going to ask you to do the same. Be with me in this. What's the most painful thing that's happened to you in your lifetime? I'll share with you mine, but it's not about mine. It's not about trumping anybody else's challenges. It's not about comparing anything. It's about the fact that that piece had caused this. What's causing that for you? What's creating that comfort zone that's uncomfortable to break out, that shell that's holding you back? What is that thing? Was it something that happened to you as a child? As a teenager? Was it a divorce of a parent? Was it abuse? Was it something that happened in school? Was it something that happened in a relationship? Was it a bad marriage? What is it that just has you kind of, Now, if you're saying, I don't feel that. Wow, what a gift. Because I estimate that close to 90% of society is here. They've got something that's happened. Well, I picked up my most painful because I knew what it was. And it happened in Chicago. I'm going to speak in Chicago the next day. It happened in Chicago. I'm young. I'm between 3 and 5. I think in the book I wrote 2 to 4, but it's 3 to 5. I was 3 to 5 years old. And my father was going to college and working at night, and my mother was working in a high-rise. Now, this is a challenge because my mother grew up on a farm, and until the time she was married, they did not have indoor plumbing. Now, we've had some delightful conversations about how you compensate for that, and we've laughed about it many times, but they did not have plumbing. Now they've been married for just a couple of years, 2 small children, 3 years, 4 years, and they're in Chicago, in the middle of these high-rises, and she's working in one of them. It was overwhelming for her to have 2 small children and such a dramatic shift in her living circumstances. It was tough on her, really tough. Well, there was a couple, couldn't have children, who befriended our family, who were happy to take us out on little outings, buy us clothes. Christmas time, Santa Claus showed up to our little studio apartment where we had Murphy beds to sleep in. And we cooked our oatmeal in the morning in a popcorn popper. You know, the old ones that used to sit on a hot plate, rounded bottom? Yeah. Well, my parents at the time, and I harbor no ill feelings about this. What a godsend. Somebody wants to help us. The problem was they were pedophiles. And they took a lot more than they ever gave. Now that's the one I'm holding. Again, what's the one you're holding? What's the one that helped contribute the most to this shell of protection, this comfort zone we want to hide in and we're uncomfortable getting out of? What's yours? It could have been a 5th grade teacher who said something to you that just devastated you, and you have carried it for a lifetime. It could be just that. But identify it, feel it. Because when I was holding this, that really tender voice asked, has anyone else suffered from a similar wound? Yeah. I want you to see the facial expression. If that's how I felt in the dream, well, yeah. It was like the first time I got outside of my comfort zone to see how other people might have suffered from similar wounds. Not always the exact one, but a similar one. And then I was told to take this experience and engrave it on my heart. Engrave it on my heart. So that it could be used as a reference point. All I know in that moment, I didn't know how it was going to be used. I just felt that as it slid in, I felt more whole. Because for a lifetime to that point, I didn't want that in my life. I wanted to be someone else, somewhere else, doing something different. I didn't want that. And how many times do we feel that? We don't want that experience to be part of our, well, it is part of our life. Well, I had a big pile, so I did another one, and then another one. Anyone else suffering from a similar wound? Yes, and in it goes. Now, key moment, and I want to come back, because today isn't telling you the dream, it's telling you when we pick it up and we do this, this is where the problem occurs. And I'll emphasize that in a moment. But having done it, that tender voice says to me, Dave, your character, and I want to speak to you. Your character has been forged in the furnace of adversity. You know what pain feels like. You can't take back the past. But you can choose to use all of those experiences to better understand what someone else is going through. And that if is the big if for our conversation today, if you will do this, there's finally purpose in that suffering, because now you're getting to use it. You're listening to someone, you're hearing things you may not have, anybody else would have heard. You're asking questions others may have never asked. You're seeing things other people may not see, because you know what it's like. If you use it that way, there's finally purpose in it. And as you step into this person's world, and we'll be discussing this in the next video, we create a level of trust quickly, and walls of resistance come down in their world, not for everybody else, but for you. You're welcomed into their comfort zone. Into their comfort zone. And trust is established. And there is no need for a wall between you and them. And their cooperation and their energy pours out to you, measured at about 40% of their capacity. It's miraculous. That washing of all of that energy and productive cooperation that's dammed up behind that wall is what fills our soul. Because I was told, lastly, purpose, joy, and much needed healing in your soul. Healing literally means, in this context, that this comfort zone softens and evaporates, and we stretch and we grow, and we find the joy that comes from creating more and more, and being more and more abundant, and being more and more driven to serve other people. So let's go back to the if. Let's go back to this moment, because this is where the challenge occurs. Because although we've been dragging this stuff behind us, you can almost feel the heaviness. Do we ever show up that way to our family and friends? A little bit of that victim energy. Well, the biggest risk isn't just the energy. It's the reluctance to take that experience, let go of the pain, the guilt, the shame, the anger, and engrave it on our heart. Because once it goes in here, it's no longer being drug around by us. It's totally and only used to serve another person. It's no longer about our pain, our suffering, our angst, our disappointment, our whatever it might be. It's now totally about theirs and better understanding theirs. And we can be very reluctant to make this transition for this reason. And I have to be honest with you. This is very personal for me. So I feel like I have permission to share it with you because it's kind of revealing. We often use those experiences as excuses for why our life is where it is today. The way my relationships turned out, the way my finances are. You keep going down the list. It's because of that. And if we were to take that and engrave it on our heart and use it only for the service of another, what excuse would we have for non-action, procrastination, for not being decisive? What excuse would we have? The answer is we wouldn't have one. And some of us have lived a long time with excuses to justify our lack of productivity, our lack of action, attention, being present, being loving. That's the reason why. So in this process, one of the great decisions you'll want to make to break out of your shell is, do I want to use that to drag around and keep me exhausted so I can't connect with people? Do I want to do that? Do I want to keep draining the energy out of everybody else? Because victims generally look at someone, they look pretty together, and they're needy, they need something. So they're, oh, I'm just tired, oh, it's been terrible, oh, this happened. We just want all this sympathy and we want all the love, and we don't get everything we need. When we're in victim mode, what we don't realize is we may have taken every last ounce of that person's strength. And it's never going to be enough. We can never fill the void in our soul by taking life out of someone else. It won't happen. We'll always be empty. So the decision is, would you like to engage in life and embrace principles and connect and serve and create value and contribute? Would you like to be alive and be creating and taking on the challenges, stretching and growing and becoming? Do you want to do that? If you're ready, then you'll be willing to take that, look at it. Anybody else suffering from a similar wound? Yes. I am so tired of this wearing me out. I'm so tired of this holding me in this comfort zone, this shell that has kept me from connecting with people and building my business and driving my life. I'm so tired of it. I am so willing to put it in my heart and use it differently. I want to give it purpose. I want to find joy in my journey, and I definitely need healing in my soul. So as you make the list of those things over there in that sack, ask yourself, how often have I used that or that or that as an excuse for my current circumstances? Am I sick enough of how I feel? Am I sick enough of feeling lonely in my little cocoon? Am I ready to become a living, breathing member of society, one that is using all of that to serve other people and to create joy in their life? Am I willing to do that? Am I ready to do that? Because if you are, you're ready to break through. You're ready to break through this comfort zone. You're ready to become. You're ready to be planted in the darkness of the soil. In those discouragements, frustrations, overwhelms, failures, you're ready to put them in your heart. You're ready to ripen. You're ready to mature. You're ready to grow. With this great principle, the only way this breaks down and we break out is by focusing on serving another human being, using all of that. That's why we're planted in it, so that we can use it to serve, and we will ripen, we will mature, we will grow, we will sprout. Og says at the end of that scroll, 100 grains of wheat turns into 100 stalks, and pretty soon we can feed the world. What's he saying? I start showing up in the service of other people. My shell begins to weaken and soften, and I break out of it, and I no longer feel a need for it, because it's not about me and what's happened to me. It's about them and what's happening to them. That shift. And now I'm serving, and I'm lifting, and I'm building, and I am helping to take down their wall and building a bridge so that my love, my new awareness, can enter their soul, and then we inspire them to do likewise. Can you imagine? One person does this with 10, and those 10 do it 10 more, and those do it 10 more. We will eventually feed the world. Can you imagine the burdens that can be lifted by simply seeing all that we've been dragging around in our sack and choosing to not let that burden us anymore, and frankly, everyone around us. Frankly, everyone around us. We're going to choose to use it here, and we are going to become an active part of society in serving people and inspiring them to do likewise. And eventually we could change the world. That's why Og calls love agape love, this process we're talking about, the greatest secret of success in all ventures. Muscle can split a shield and even destroy life. But only the unseen power of love can open the hearts of men. And until I master this art, I'm no more than a peddler in the marketplace. There's nothing worse than being inside a cocoon, inside this shell, inside this comfort zone, trying to connect with people, and all we're doing is throwing up on them and creating all kinds of challenges and confirming why we need to stay in here and not be out there where there's a blizzard. He said with love, I can melt all hearts. Like the sun whose rays soften the coldest clay. So you want to break through this? Start right there. What is it? How reluctant have I been to let go of this? Am I harboring an anger, frustration, or resentment, a shame or guilt? How is that serving me? And what impact is it having on others around me because of my unavailability? Can I choose to take that? Put it here? No more excuses, no more safety nets. I'm turning my back and focusing here. I'm giving purpose to that experience. And in closing, many of you watching this right now have had so many of these. You are so beautifully and uniquely prepared to serve. The extent to which you've experienced pain is the extent to which you could administer joy. If you do this, and in this process, you will crack through your comfort zone, through your shell, and you will sprout, and you will grow and turn into 100 grains of wheat. That's how we multiply our value 100-fold. That's how we do it. Now, in the next video, I want to spend some time putting some meat on the bones of intrinsic validation, so that when we are stepping into a person's world, we understand better the nuances, the subtlety, the reason for those pieces. Well, here's 5 techniques, 5 things we do. Well, we can practice those, but why are we doing it? What is it that we want to accomplish? What are we unlocking because of it? So that we can become more courageous in using it. But knowing that in the next video, we're going to talk about, I've already identified it, how I've used it as an excuse, and I've decided to engrave it on my heart. You want to make that decision. Then we'll go to the next video, and I'll show you how to use it in the service of another person. This is such an important piece for all of our lives. The single greatest secret of success in all ventures.